in those 2 weeks, we've been working on our transition offense majorly, because the game is quite high-paced. So we've been working so hard on our transition offense, and the players are responding well to it. Other than that, this week we've covered some on our zone and man-to-man defense.
Basketball fans, welcome back. So this past weekend, we got to see the Kenya Morans play against the South Sudanese local-based players here in Kenya. And my God, it was an epic thriller. This game ended 86-83. And honestly, going into this game, I had no expectations on it. So it was a game that I watched closely. The most interesting thing is the fact that we didn't even get to see the team that was going to play prior to the game. Coach Grant from Australia, he's yet to show up, so Coach Cliff is at the helm. I was just waiting to see what type of basketball we're going to see from the Kenya Morans, because the last time we saw them play was against Tunisia in the AfroCan, and they hit training camp after that provisional list. So there was a lot of suspense when it came to it. So immediately when I saw the game was announced last week, I just made a quick video just talking about that game, and I just gave my raw and unfiltered opinions with reference to that game. And quite frankly, what are you doing? I'm not sure what type of strategy they're using, because even with Coach Cliff at the helm, we have seen what Coach Cliff has produced. We have seen through the years what he has been able to do. And quite frankly, it has not been the best stint for him, especially when it comes to the national team. And without even out of the way, going into the game, there were a couple of additions that we got to see play. We had Kenyan Airways he played in, Albert Odero. The last time we saw this guy play and suit up was when he played in the FIBA Afrobasket 2021. That was about 3 years ago. So that was actually a good thing, especially when he came and he played for the 3x3 last year. I knew this guy was just going to be put in the team because his productivity is needed. We had Ken Washira in there. We had Eugene Adera, our Kyrie Irving. We had him in there, number 11. And he just did his thing in there, especially the point guard. So we got to see Bramwell in there. So it was an overall entertaining game. And last year I even made a couple of videos just talking about like what we were doing, especially as a team. Prior to us even going to the AfroCan, I made 2 videos, and I feel like they stood the test of time, because when I look back at them, I even made a repost on them on my Instagram. The sentiments that I had back then and now still haven't changed, because there's an underlying thing that I've seen, and there's an underlying trend that I've seen that the Kenya Morans tend to lean back on, especially when it comes to such preparations. So the Nyayo Gymnasium was packed. There were a lot of people who came in to watch the game. South Sudanese faithfuls who reside in Kenya turned up and watched the game. Kenyans also came out and watched the game. I felt like the arena, the Nyayo Stadium, the Nyayo Gym was so packed to the point where some people even didn't have seats. So if you're going to have like another friendly, we should even take this game to Kasarani for some space for other people to play, to even see the game, because Nyayo was actually very, very filled to the brim. And it even gave me flashbacks of what we saw the Kenya Morans do, especially when it came to the 2020 Afrobasket pre-qualifiers. So when I saw that, in my head, I was like, they should even take it to a bigger venue. But overall, the game, I can say, was a thriller. I can't say it has gone down as a classic, but I can say it has gone down as an improvement of what we saw the South Sudanese-based players who are here play. They didn't beat us, but the Kenya Morans came in and won that game 65-42. The Kenya Morans were held to 62 points, but in this game it was just like a continuous barrage of like playing and just defense and all that and all that. So one interesting thing that I saw Coach Cliff say was they needed to work on their transition their zone defense, not even transition defense, but zone offense and defense. And he even was quoted as saying, there are things that we are not doing well. We are freezing on zone offense, and this must be improved in the remaining days. And he also came out and said, we started well but got tired as the game progressed, and this was our main undoing. Starting tomorrow, we will have to work more on our endurance. So you can see strength and conditioning still being put into question, and this is no fault of their own, because the way they hurriedly assembled the team, there was a provisional list. We don't know who picked up the call to come. So there was a lot of things going on in there. And this one even puts a question mark or even an asterisk on the team's preparation, because we are not even sure what we are going to expect when these players go ahead and play Tunisia, Angola, and Guinea, because those are very tough matchups. And the worrying thing was the fact that the Kenya Morans defense is being put to question, especially with them conceding 83 points. I was expecting it to be, spaced out, and the Kenya Morans needed to find a way to at least hold them to as low as minimal scoring opportunities and points as possible. But it wasn't the case, because this game was a clutch game, and this game will have gone either way as it progressed. And the way the team has been set up, I don't feel like, and I'm not that confident that they're able to go all the way like that, because if the South Sudanese local based players, this is not even the actual national team, these are just local based players playing in Nairobi, or in Nairobi, if they're able to push the team to that level, what will happen if Kenya matches up with Tunisia, matches up with Angola, who are rough and tough? Tunisia actually the reigning defending AfroBasket champions. Angola just fresh off an appearance in the FIBA World Cup. They traveled overseas and they were in the actual event. And Guinea, they're just a rough and tough team. So we are not sure what you're going to expect there. So those are three difficult matchups. And given that situation and looking at that game, it begs the question, do we have enough to be able to is our coaching inadequate? Because I know the new Coach Grant, he's on his way, he's going to come. So he's going to come with his own philosophy. And Coach Cliff has been coaching the team. He has his own philosophy, and the one that he has been running with. So the deficiency in especially in the tactician, Coach Cliff, has been evident, especially when you saw him coach in the FIBA AfroCan. He has not been able to get the job done, and he's still given the opportunity to coach the team. So that is one big Achilles heel that I feel like will hold the team back moving forward. And there's not enough time to prepare, because this is that month that they are 1.5 weeks away from that major tournament. Starting from this week, I'm not even counting the week where they're going to start playing, because that time they'll be acclimatizing. They have already traveled there to Tunisia. They'll have 1.5 weeks to prepare. So is this enough time for them? Because they're going to have the same situation that we saw with the FIBA World Cup qualifiers, where in that first window in February, it was a fiasco. They lost 3 games and they got embarrassed brutally. I covered it extensively in this channel, and it was very difficult to see. So the big question is, will we see the same thing? Because what they're doing is they are using the same blueprint and the same strategies given that situation. So even looking at the game itself, we are seeing the same run-of-the-mill players. We are seeing the legacy players are still being called up, and they're being put on the team, and they're being mixed up with the players who are up and coming in there, who are their first stint, especially last in the FIBA AfroCan. So what is the plan? I posed the question, are we rebuilding or are we contending? So that was the main bone of contention given at that time. We don't even know what we are trying to do, because we go in with the mentality of winning it all, we lose all the games. If we are going to use the legacy players, that means we are going to go and win it all, which is very impossible. The AfroBasket doesn't work like that. Last time we were in the actual AfroBasket, we only won 1 game out of 4. We lost again Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and got eliminated by South Sudan. And South Sudan have even gone ahead and are going to play for the Olympics. Not only do they have a squad that is going to play in the AfroBasket, they have a squad that's going to play in the Olympics. So levels, man. And they still have a local-based team that is still pushing the Kenya Morans to the edge. So with that, somewhat it just knocks the stock out of Kenyan basketball. We are not in a place where you can say that we are contending, and you're not even in a place where you're saying that we want to rebuild. Because if you keep going with the Kenya Morans legacy players, we're not going to go anywhere. If you're saying that we're going to rebuild, take a new team there. We're going to see the team sheets nearing like the tournament. But the big problem is we're going to have a situation where some players are going to be left behind. The other time we saw a couple of players got left behind for that assignment. We saw Fahim Juma wasn't able to play there. And the excuse that he was made that he was not going to, even he came out in an interview saying that the reason as well is not in the team because he didn't die for a loose ball. But the fact of the matter is they didn't want him to be there. So will he get a shot? Will some other players who have just suit up and just had like a good game in that game against South Sudan have a shot? How is it going to work? Because sometimes it's just a cartel that the KBF cartel are just going to run with whoever they're going to run with. The technical bench doesn't know even any better because they're just going to pick the legacy players the way they have been. So looking at this situation, we will be able to like even win at least a game. Because if the way we looked in this game, or despite the win, there are so many flaws, especially when it comes to our stamina for the whole 40 minutes. In the second half, that's where we lose the games. Majority of the time when I'm watching Kenya Morans games, I make sure to watch the second half. Because in the third and fourth quarter, that's when we start to slide because we start all energetic in the first half. In the first and second quarter, we are good. But in the third and fourth, how we finish the game, it's not the greatest. And sometimes it's just all comes down to the rotations. Coach Cliff has not been the coach that knows how to utilize the players to their strengths. We saw what happened in the elimination game against Morocco. He didn't go with Eugene as the first option, and we ended up losing that game in the end, even in the Gabon game. So who is going to have the offensive load, especially when it comes to like the number 1, 2, and 3 option? That is one thing that needs to be established. There is no clear structure, especially on the team and on the court, because when push comes to shove, when things get difficult, you'll see Coach Cliff revert to like the same old plays, and they keep failing every single time. And that's the same thing that we saw in the AFROCAN, even in the classification games, even on the elimination game against Morocco, the game that we played against Tunisia, the last game to determine the 5th and 6th positions. We blew a couple of leads, like 4 times, and it was just embarrassing the way the team went out. And even looking at that whole situation where we don't even know who's the number 1, 2, or 3 option, and not even knowing who to go to, especially when it comes to like getting a bucket, that's the big problem that has the team. And even with the new players that we are bringing in, have they logged enough minutes to be able to trust each other on the floor? Because the intangibles, things that don't occur on the stat sheet, they're the ones that are going to determine if you're going to go ahead and win the game. So that's what actually I was looking at, and I even got the chance to check out them highlights on YouTube or the Kenya Morans. And quite frankly, even looking at how they played, still a lot of question marks. Despite the win, we considered a lot of points. I was expecting that game to be spread out, like we are supposed to be up a bit. But good credit to South Sudan, the local-based players, because they came in and balled out, and they exposed some chinks in our armor. And this was actually a much more entertaining game than what we saw last year. So hopefully, even in the next friendly, because I'm pretty sure they're going to play another friendly prior to this tournament, we'll see what adjustments they're going to make. But given that whole situation of conceding points like that, even last year I made a video talking about the way we conceded a lot of points against the Street League Select team and being held to 65 points by the South Sudanese team last year. And in this year, we've conceded north of 83 points. That puts a lot of question marks on how we are rotating on defense, and our offensive schemes, which Coach Cliff, he has been a intellectual letdown, especially when it comes to like knowing how to curate good IQ plays. So yeah, man, I mean, that's just a take over the game. So if you like this video, make sure to leave your feedback down in the comments what you think about this whole situation. I know we have to ride with the team, given whatever decision that is going to be made, good or bad. I know the powers that be will do whatever it is that they have to do, regardless of any counsel from me. So I'm just here to just give an update on what I'm seeing. And yeah, man, I'm out. Peace.